Hi, I'm Dr. Gil Wilshire. I'm a board-certified physician, surgeon, and reproductive endocrinologist. Welcome to my series of podcasts where we discuss medical matters that matter to you. I'll be interviewing top experts in their fields, and we'll also be delving into fascinating backstories from deep within the world of medicine. Welcome to the Dr. Gil Show. This is the show where we talk about medical matters that matter to you. Our guest today is Mr. Ty Loethen. Welcome to the show, Ty.
How's it going, Gil?
Oh, wonderful to be able to sit down and talk to you today.
Yes, so very happy to be here.
A very special day. So, Ty, I interview people on this show with all kinds of titles and degrees and letters after their names.
Mm-hmm.
But you win, my friend. Ty is a master combat sports trainer and coach.
I like to think so.
Oh, man, that's the best. I would trade at least 4 or 5 initials after my name to be master combat sports trainer. That is so cool.
Thank you.
So, you're also an NCAA All-American?
Mm-hmm.
Where did you, was that wrestling?
That was wrestling. Yeah, collegiate
where?
wrestling. University of Central Missouri, Warrensburg, under Justin Ensign, who's coaching at Oklahoma City University now. And I did that 9 years ago. So I was 21. I was a junior in college.
In what weight class?
165.
160. What's that? 70 kilos? What is that?
About probably like 75 kilos. Probably
So
right in between.
that's Division I, right?
That's Division II.
Division
Division
II, but you're
II.
still an All-American wrestler
Yes, sir.
from the beginning. Fantastic.
Yes.
Now, you also are one of the members of the USA Beach Wrestling World Team.
Oh yeah, that's very cool.
That's way cool. And I understand you just came back from Romania.
Yeah, Constanța, Romania, right there on the Black Sea.
Wow, on the beach in the Black Sea. So
Yep,
you're competing against all these badass mofos from around the world.
Azerbaijan, India, Portugal, France, Romania, Bulgaria, Hungary, Ukraine.
Where wrestling
Norway,
goes all the way back.
everywhere.
Wow. And you did pretty well, I guess.
I took 8th in the world.
8th in the world.
I took 8th in the world.
Does that make you number 1 in the United States?
It does make me number 1 in the United States, which is pretty cool.
In 80 kilograms.
Yes, 80 kg. I'm
really interested in the history of wrestling, and I understand it goes way, way back. Way maybe even before it did in the East. Maybe it was even well established in the Middle East and around the Mediterranean, maybe thousands of years ago.
So I think there's a lot of places of origin. Officially, it's the oldest documented sport in human history. Around 3000 BC in Egypt, there are some tablets they found with like wrestling techniques, like, high C single legs and stuff we do today, and like throws that you're like, oh, I know what that is. That makes sense. We do that move right now. That's a lat drop, or that's a hip toss, or that's a double leg, and it'd be interesting to find out what their rules were. Because there's so many different rules, right? Like original Egyptian folk style.
Yeah, and then it came through Greece through pancration, right?
Yep. And wrestling. The original Greek Olympiad had wrestling and pancration. So I think pancration more close to MMA, like ish. Where wrestling probably they didn't have the strikes. I would guess. And that's I don't know, 1000 BC to 500, 400, 300 BC in that age range. And then you have like India at the same time developing their own style of wrestling, and you have like China developing their own style of wrestling, and then of course we go to Japan and we have jiu-jitsu, judo, right, which is all wrestling. I learned something really interesting lately from an individual who studies quite a bit of kung fu. A lot of the kung fu forms where you see where they like push, sweep, pull, that looks very maybe flowy and not applicable as much.
Right.
His words to me were, kung fu is 90% wrestling. He's like, the push-pull stuff you're seeing, they're doing it very upright for forms, for show. So, because it's to show people. But if you were to apply it it'll be much more in a hunched wrestling, guarded, drive, push, pull, attack. And specifically, I'm thinking of one, and I almost can't. Here, we got film.
Sure,
You
sure.
know, where they kind of do this very push, pull, flowy attack.
Yeah, and Tai Chi as well.
If I were to see that, it's really I'm pushing on the upper body, right? I'm
Right.
pushing on the upper body, sweeping down, hooking a leg, and now I have a single leg. And now I go finish you from a single leg. And you kind of see that in Muay Thai, even though they're striking. You see a lot of grappling, very similar. So it's interesting, but it also probably makes a lot of sense that it would be a very worldly martial art or sport, right? You need to find a way to protect yourself and to train your warriors, and we can't do so in a way where we're just beating each other up and we're injured all the time, right? So then you find efficient ways to train, to defeat your enemy, to then maybe develop a sport as well, which builds our populace. I think in ancient times it would have been so much more worldly applicable and just like, oh yes, we all wrestle. Whereas now it's like, oh no, we scholastically wrestle, or you're in this MMA club or jiu-jitsu is different wrestling with more positions. You know what I mean?
I see. So help me discern or differentiate these various types of martial arts.
Yes.
Let's say we have wrestling. There in the Olympics, there's Greco-Roman and freestyle. Can you tell me what's the difference between those two, please?
Okay, yeah. So, simply put, for Greco-Roman, you cannot touch the legs. Okay, so that makes it.
That's why they're upright.
That's why they're upright and they're more here, instead of down low with their heads low. And that seems to have a lot of applicability when you come into, say, a mixed martial arts forum. Right? Because now you're used to being so upright as is, and strikes kind of lead to upper body clinches a lot. So you see a lot of, like we're seeing now with a lot of the high-level European and Chechenian type wrestlers that are very, very good at Greco, transitioning to MMA very well, right? Because we're already so used to that. Freestyle, you're allowed to attack the whole body.
Okay.
Where it would differ from American folk style, because American folk style, we can attack the whole body, and that's what most people would see, like at school or in college or high school or what have you, or in kids. You can attack the whole body, but it's much more of a takedown battle. You start on your feet, you get a takedown, and then if 10 seconds goes by and there's not a turn, the ref brings you back up. There's a couple other rules where, honestly, fight applicability, freestyle probably has the least, because you don't have to exhibit control to obtain points.
But how about the pin, though? But you win with a pin.
Win with a pin, but once you get to the very, very high level, how often does a pin happen versus a takedown, and I'm going to roll you?
Win points.
And like in American folk style, actually I think translates very, very well to fight applicability, say MMA or in the real world for self-defense, or jiu-jitsu, very high translation to jiu-jitsu, because there's such an emphasis on controlling your opponent. Whereas in freestyle, I can roll you and just kind of roll you through and nothing really happens, and 2 points.
Gotcha.
And in, say, American folk style, half Nelson, I got to hold you 1, 2. Now I got 2 points. So it's a little different in that respect. And you get highly rewarded in American folk style for staying on top and putting your opponent in danger, or back points, as we say in America.
Right.
Whereas freestyle, you get that reward, but it's also simply easier to take down and not try to put them in danger as much.
Gotcha. So help me with these other types of wrestling. There's catch wrestling.
Yes.
There's shoot fighting. There's trap fighting. What is catch wrestling? What is trap fighting?
These are good questions. So catch wrestling, I know a little bit about. The other ones, maybe I'm not going to know the rule set so perfect, but seemingly the goal of all of them is to figure out a martial art of positioning. How can I out-position my opponent without strikes, right, to deal damage, but then still put them in a dangerous position? If this were a fight, I'm going to be the victor. So catch as catch can wrestling. Think mix American folk style with the heavy control element, and yes, there is a pin, but also some submissions like in jiu-jitsu, and where maybe IBJJF jiu-jitsu rules don't allow you to do certain holds, bicep slicers, calf slicers, and such. Those come from catch as catch can wrestling.
Yeah, what I've seen with catch wrestling, they've got these things called
It is
cranks.
It's intense.
Oh, you don't go to sleep. You
No,
scream.
you got a spine thing.
Right. You go out in pain. It's like, stop. You start weeping. You tap for a different reason.
And I think I actually a good friend of mine who's on Team USA's beach wrestling team, Mike Clark of Kentucky, and he is the University of Louisville's head wrestling coach right now. One of the 70-kilogram wrestlers. He's going to go to the World Championships of catch wrestling in London this spring, and I got invited. So we'll see what happens. I'm not for sure if I'm doing that, but it's interesting, right? And
Right.
it seems like there's a pin, so they would award you for just staying in a dominant top position. So they kind of kill the jiu-jitsu part of pulling guard. And then there are still submissions, right? So you can maybe be in like a half guard or something and not get pinned and still apply your bottom submissions from jiu-jitsu. But it seems vicious.
It seems really vicious, which takes us into the submission wrestling and then the jiu-jitsu world. And you've got the Japanese jiu-jitsu, and then you have what the Gracies and the Brazilians did with it, making it a Brazilian flavor of jiu-jitsu.
Oh yeah.
Amazing lineage there, and where it has gone and evolved. And I just saw I get these little advertisements because Facebook and YouTube know what I like.
Of course.
And it shows the latest development in no gi. That's where you don't have any of the robe to grab onto.
No kimonos.
No kimonos. And this is still evolving. Various grasps without a gi, these I'm seeing leg triangles around the arm, and it still is developing and evolving and getting better, which I find just really fascinating.
I think we're at a very interesting time in grappling history, combat sport history, where, in the 90s we had UFC and MMA really kick off, and then it's kind of taken shape now to having more of a rule set. And then that makes you think about what to do differently, right? When I first came into coaching wrestling for MMA at Hewlett House here in town, where I work with several pro fighters, one guy who's in the UFC, Darian Weeks, a couple other Bellator level, LFA level guys, you have to go, okay, sport of wrestling, what can you do? More of, this is an open fight forum, and that's kind of where I came up with the martial art of wrestling. More of a truth rather than here are the rules, now I'm going to alter it to the rule set. So, in a fight on the street, if someone can punch you and you're in a low stance, well, you're just getting your nose beat up all the time, right? You got to stand up tall, protect your face, but still have a good quick down block and, sprawl to get your feet back and everything else. And it's quite interesting. And then with no-gi, to kind of add on to what you were saying, they're originally seemingly coming from the gi world of jiu-jitsu, at least in the beginning, and it's like, there's a no-gi thing, and gi jiu-jitsu seems to be trying, and I could be wrong and a little biased, but seems to be trying to change their rules to keep wrestlers from dominating their world, which makes sense because they have a goal. Their goal is to be a submission fighting sport and not emphasize the takedown as much. So then they kind of build their rules such, and that's good. And from that, you get amazing techniques you wouldn't otherwise have, right? Because with the niche disciplines, you get the very high level in that area. No-gi, well, you can't do your lapel chokes. You can't do so many things. So it immediately is a much more wrestling hospitable environment. I'm seeing a lot of great wrestlers transition to that and do very well very quickly.
Sure.
And you have to develop a different style, because if you just go wrestle, there's so many things that's going to get you beat from someone who's a good jiu-jitsu artist. But if you just go do jiu-jitsu and you're in a no-gi, there's going to be a lot of stuff you can't do that you could do before. So right now, leg locks, seem to be what everyone does in the world. And phenomenal, and they don't let you do it in like gi jujitsu till you're
So your brown belt.
I was gonna say a
Yeah.
certain level,
Dangerous stuff.
and I don't come from that world. And my argument would be you should teach it in the beginning, because if it's dangerous, now you've waited until they're good, and now you're day one brown belt, and also now your knees blown out. That's not a good idea.
Right.
But mixing in high level wrestling with high level jujitsu, new techniques are gonna emerge. So like with leg locks, man, if you can hit a good low single, like in wrestling, and drive that into a leg lock, because you already kind of have the ankle pinned, now you're in a whole new game that you wouldn't have ever been in before. Because a low single in gi jujitsu, I found, gets your head choked really quick.
Yes,
but now there's no gi I have to worry about. Well, I can fight your hands and your feet, and not worry about you grabbing your cuff of your pant.
Yeah. Now, I kind of wanted to do a purview of all martial arts and including striking, but I'm afraid this is going to take an awful long time. Because you got your Muay Thai, you got your karate, you got your Taekwondo, you got your you name it, like your Kung
Sambo.
Fu. Sambo. Don't even get me started.
Senegalese
on
wrestling.
That was another question I want to ask you real quick before I go to the striking. Senegalese wrestling is on a beach.
Yeah.
They seem like big ass, strong, mean guys. What is different about Senegalese wrestling and the beach wrestling you're doing?
It doesn't seem like much.
Okay.
It seems like, so from what I could tell, and I watched a little bit on it, there's two forms of Senegalese wrestling, one where they're allowed to strike and one where they're not, and I couldn't tell you the name of the difference.
Okay.
But it's basically sand wrestling. It's beach wrestling. And it makes sense, because the UWW, United World Wrestling, which is the overall arching wrestling entity that does freestyle, Greco, beach wrestling, from what I understand, went, hey, we have Senegalese wrestling, we have Indians folk style wrestling, we have, Azerbaijan sand wrestling, all these other forms of wrestling around the world that are basically in sand, dirt, mud, etc. Let's make an internationally aligned style and run with this. And that's seemingly what we're doing now. And I think that's really cool, because you can unite so many more people that, I don't know if they can afford it or not, but it's not easy to have a mat necessarily, but it's relatively simple to go, hey, there's some soft ground, let's go throw each other around. Who can push you out of the circle, who can throw who to the ground.
Yeah, I've seen videos of jiu-jitsu classes in very poor areas, and they just have a little tiny mat, a little square mat, so they can do it, because they can't afford a studio fully
exactly
matted out. So what I was getting to where I was hoping to go to with pulling in striking arts, is I was wondering, what in your opinion is the most effective overall skill set of martial arts for a person to protect themselves? And I want to interject something here.
Yes.
Where I did my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu training, the hour prior was Krav Maga.
Okay.
And if you don't know, it was invented for the Israeli armed forces, just to win.
Yes.
And
get out of sticky situations.
My observation, it was gouging eyes, punching in the throat, kicking in the balls, and pulling hair to win. And it was taught by the karate instructor too, because you just had to change what he was striking. And obviously those things are illegal in most of the sanctioned martial arts. But if somebody comes up, and it was also modeled situations, you're sitting in a bar minding your own business and somebody grabs you out of nowhere, what do you do with it? So you've got this thing that's ultra practical. So what would you think would be and this kind of gets into something else I want to talk about. Let's say you have a kid, right? And you want to train him, you want him to learn. What's most practical in life to defend oneself, do you think?
I think I would then ask, because if we're talking a kid or an adult or a surgeon, right? I would then ask other exploratory questions to say, well, where are you at in life currently? What situations may you find yourself in? What are you able to commit to training time, right? Because that's going to play a lot into it. I run my clinics that I run myself. Martial Art of Wrestling is what I've coined them to be. It's under Get Ty Fit. I run them out of a Krav Maga studio in town, Jaguar Self Defense, with Jesse Beebe owns it. And I've seen some of his classes, and my fiance has done some Krav Maga at some other places. I think for, say, an average person on the street, doing a little bit of jujitsu to understand if someone is on top of you, because if you're a woman, more than likely it'll be a larger man that's coming after you.
Yeah.
You're not going to outstrength them. It's going to have to be something else, right? Using their energy against them. So having something where we're on our back in a bad situation is going to be beneficial. Having a proficiency in some strikes, not to go beat someone up, but to get distance from the attacker, right? I think that becomes vitally important. Some good martial art of wrestling to ultimately do the same thing. I don't want to get taken down. I want to get space between me and my attacker and get out of the situation, right? The fight you don't have is the best fight. So then where I do like Krav Maga as an idea for exactly what you said of the scenarios of practicality. So, of the techniques, what's the best techniques? I would say to an average person, you're not going to practice any techniques enough to be proficient at them because that's relatively difficult.
Right.
So then I think, how do we do the most for the least amount of time? How do you defend yourself, equip yourself with the most potential defensibility versus an average assailant? Well, your average assailant probably isn't trained, but he's probably a bigger or multiple. And it's probably in the real world.
Or drunk or on PCP, right?
Yeah. That's what you're dealing with. So then I like the idea of, maybe it's not the best techniques. We could argue that, which whatever. But certainly the best scenario training would be a high-level Krav Maga, self-defense, MMA studio that would maybe talk about a self-defense scenario. My fiance, Lauren Kage, is working with multiple entities to develop this program called the Valkyrie program. She was recently in a situation where she had to use some of these, these techniques we're talking about right now to get out of some sticky situations. And she lives with me and has done quite a bit of Krav Maga and is like strong, trained, woman. But a lot of people aren't even to her level. And with what she had to deal with, it was a very tough, sticky situation. So she wants to develop this program to do what you're talking about, to arm citizens with correct self-defense and correct knowledge within themselves and kind of get to younger girls and go, hey, this isn't a masculine thing. This is, you must defend yourself because we live in a physical reality with other physical beings that may want to do harm to you at some point. So even if it's the off chance that it might happen, I think it's like 1 in 5 women are going to deal with something like this.
Right.
You must defend yourself somewhat, right?
So I would call it a life skill, just like cooking and reading.
Changing your oil.
Changing your oil is just something you got to know.
Same thing.
Now, people say, oh, I just carry a handgun. And I would argue, even with a handgun, you better be trained. You better have spent time on the range. You better know how to oil your piece, keep it up to. You better be able to get to it. You better have your concealed carry permit if you're in a state that requires that. Mm-hmm. Somebody attacks you and it's in the holster, you got to have some other options.
If I'm gonna have a fight with someone, any fight in the world, I'm a grappler first and would strike second. My goal is to go out and touch someone. If I can touch you, you're probably going to be on the ground, right? Because I'm strong there. Right. So then I would extrapolate and go, well, if an individual is coming at you, they're probably not way over here. They're probably
they're getting ready to haymaker.
They're probably right here. How fast is your How fast is your pull versus you're probably slower.
Right.
Unless the gun's out, unless you train all the time.
Right.
You're probably slower. So you're stuck in a situation where you must be able to figure something out with just your body.
And then grab your gun.
And then grab your gun, right?
Yeah, big strong guy.
Get distance. Now we can pull, right? If there's no distance, well, you could be the best with it. It kind of doesn't matter at that point. I took it out. You know, I as the attacker, now it is off the table of needing to worry.
Yeah. And I might comment, I've seen some things on knife fighting. It's so unpredictable where the knife's going to come from. What you can train, well, how do you defend this, or how do you defend this? But in the real world, it comes at you like a knitting needle, a knitting needle and sewing machine, or whatever they call it, and it's really not possible to train for all the scenarios. So it can be very dangerous.
And if you're not doing the live goes, like you were saying with your Krav stuff, how do you know? Like,
you don't even know it's there till it's
there's no way. Even with like 25 years of wrestling and martial arts training on my end, I've done not a ton in that world. My dad's a colonel in the Army, and I've done quite a bit of Army combatives with him, and some self-defense, handgun training and such. I still don't feel like I would be super confident in a situation where there's a lethal weapon. I would know, close the distance, make sure the hands stay where I can, see what's going on. But that's scary. And I think if it's scary for a trained individual, then it should be extra scary for an untrained individual, and it's real stuff. And it's real stuff.
Maybe just a little can of mace might be
all of it.
Right.
All of it.
Right.
All of it. Have yourself self-trained, right? Have yourself mentally, physically trained, have some training, whatever it can. Maybe it's once a week. Maybe it's once a week in an MMA gym, right? Maybe it's once a week with a one-on-one trainer. Here, two for one. We all need to do physical training for our health, right, Doc? So let's get some exercise by doing a martial art. So now you're learning a skill. So we're working our brain. We're working our body, right? And we're training ourselves for defense for a potential bad situation.
Yes.
3 in 1, even better.
That's the perfect segue into the next subjects I wanted to cover. Let's say you have a kid. And I always remembered in school, the wrestlers didn't get picked on,
Not often.
Not often.
Yeah.
Right? The big football players and the wrestlers, nobody picked on it.
Yeah.
And another rule of thumb, by the way, you don't have the horrible cauliflower
Just
ears.
a little bit.
You got
on
a little
that
hint.
Yeah.
A little hint, but you see somebody.
I got the other stuff.
You go with a guy with cauliflower ears. I don't care if
Stay away.
Stay away. Just don't mess with them. They'll kick your ass.
Yeah.
And it was nice. Another quick comments here is that people who are in martial arts are generally really good people.
It seems like that.
Right?
It seems like the majority.
Not 100%.
Yeah.
I am still friends with a lot of the guys I met doing jiu-jitsu because they were there for all the right reasons.
Yeah.
And another thing that maybe the general populace doesn't understand is that fighters, successful ones, are not meatheads. Mm-mm. They are smart, intelligent, fast-thinking, fit, trained people. And these are attributes that apply to anything or any success in life, So let's go about. We're going to make it into health and fitness eventually. I promise you.
Oh, no
rush. Let's say you're raising you have a kid, little 6-year-old kid, boy, girl, doesn't matter. Most fights in the schoolyard, right, end up on the ground, right?
Yeah.
End up on the ground. So it seems like some kind of wrestling or jiu-jitsu or something would be the first thing you'd want a kid to learn. Is that make sense?
If I could start with, like say a fresh 6-year-old, 5-year-old, I would say learn your body seems to be the most important. So I'm going to say gymnastics or tumbling. And I never did that.
George St. Pierre.
He's all about it. Still does as a gymnastics coach. I have some martial artists I work with that commit as adults to learning this stuff. My aunt, Kristen Loethen, was near Olympic level, went to world championships for gymnastics, and then she's probably 12, 13 years older than me. And then seeing her, and then when I got into wrestling, seeing the handful of kids that did gymnastics beforehand, they understand their body. They have body weight proficient movements, right? So I think gymnastics, and then wrestling. Wrestling because it is, I think, when we talk about a fight, I think good martial art of wrestling mechanics are the best mechanics for anything else you're going to do. seemingly what I found through discovery with working with MMA fighters and very striking dominant dudes where we'll do one-on-one stuff, and I think they come to me going, oh, I'm going to learn how to wrestle. And really, my problem solving is I want to make you the best. If you're already a really good striker, I'm not going to just go make you a wrestler now, because it's not what you gravitate towards, Now, maybe it worked out that you become a good wrestler. But if we have good wrestling, like this 6-year-old that now did gymnastics, right, for a year or so, and then now has a good wrestling background, how do you lose to another 6-year-old? Like that's a, like, for real, like it would be a tough battle for anyone to go against someone who now knows their body through gymnastics or something like that, and then knows how to fight on the ground a little bit, maybe get off the ground or keep pressure on someone. And then if we go to an early age striking martial art, Brandon Zachiri, one of the people that first got me into jiu-jitsu, which it was in a gi, which is kind of funny, he said taekwondo. And that kind of took me by surprise, because I think taekwondo, maybe not the highest level martial art when we cross them all together, but his reasoning was, and almost maybe my reasoning for gymnastics early, is you develop this high kick that seemingly no other martial art does quite like they do. And he's like, if you don't figure that out at a young age, develop that at an older age, that flexibility, range of motion gets so difficult. And I was like, very interesting, very interesting. So if you can develop whatever base human movement attributes would be needed, is what I would say. So I think gymnastics, wrestling, and taekwondo is where I'm at right now. And it might change. And it might change as I grow. But that's what I think for a beginning, fledgling 6-year-old, 5-year-old.
Fantastic. And obviously, if you get a little kid and you're running them around doing lots of sports, they're going to get fit.
Oh, yeah.
That's an easy one.
And they're going to love it, and their brain's going to develop well, and you're going to keep it fun, right? I don't think you should take a 6-year-old and be like, you're going to be the best at this. That should never, ever be the intent. It's like, we're going to teach you good things, and then you'll end up finding your direction, and we'll go from there.
Have fun.
Yeah.
And probably goes through the whole lifespan, right?
Dude, if it's not fun, why are we doing it? Why are we doing it? Yeah, if it's unenjoyable, right? Not that there won't be things you don't enjoy. You have to buy in, but yeah, if I didn't like it, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah,
it's too tough otherwise,
So let's say we have a high school kid now, hasn't done much in sports. They're getting bullied. Maybe they're not as fit as they might be. Is there anything they might do a little differently with a teen? I
don't know if I teach him taekwondo as a teen. I think the reasoning for that would have been, like we said, just the body movement. I think I'm going to teach him how to wrestle, and then proficient enough defensive striking, right? And proficient enough defensive jiu-jitsu. But what I find, kind of like you said, it's going to end on the ground. But wrestling, something that starts on our feet and then ends on the ground. So most teenagers aren't actually going to know how to fight, but they're going to talk real tough and get in each other's face. And college kids here at Mizzou, the same thing. If you're walking through downtown, everyone thinks they're big tough guys. Well, they're going to bump into you and stuff. If you can throw them, or when they reach their arm up, you just kind of go grab their leg. Even if they got buddies, they'll go, whoa. Don't mess with this cat. Or, if you talking about the fitness side too,
right?
Man, if you want to lose weight, wrestling seems to be a cheat code. I try to calculate calories and such with that, and I don't even know how you could figure out how to count calories almost with it, because I could easily have 1,000 calorie practice, if not more, and I know so many individuals that the byproduct of coming to wrestling practice, MMA, etc. Man, I lost 20 pounds doing this over the last couple months. I wasn't even trying. And it's that's right. That's right. So I think with wrestling for a teenager, and it's in school, right? So you can go and have a team, and you have probably some buddies that do it. And most jiu-jitsu places probably have a wrestling component. Most MMA places probably have a wrestling component. So you can find it, through a club as well. You can find it through scholastics. But but you're going to learn your body. You're going to learn how to manipulate weight distribution, his energy, my energy. What I mean by energy is like force, push, pull. And then get out of sticky situations that you maybe were getting bullied before, and you're like, okay, I know a thing or two, and then all of a sudden maybe confidence even goes up with that, right?
Sure.
And then the bully backs off, and then other amazing things happen. I've
Yeah.
done, other than teens, I've done this with some 20-some college kids, that were not, the super athlete in high school or whatever, but then all of a sudden in college, they are kind of turning around like, hey, I want to learn how to do a martial art. And then the martial art of wrestling comes up like, wow, I really like this wrestling stuff. I saw it in school. I didn't even know what it was. And then they get a little fitter because of that. And now all of a sudden, they're talking to girls because of that. And they're getting their
It's a
numbers.
confidence boost.
Yeah, it changes their
You
whole
stand
life.
tall.
It changes your whole life. Yeah, 100%.
So now we've got let's say a fairly healthy adult in their 20s.
Yep.
Want to get into this kind of stuff for defense and fitness. And do your recommendations change now that you're a young adult?
I don't think so. I think I would carry through. I wouldn't do much different. Here's my overall hypothesis on how to be good at say fighting like MMA or anything, and you could even say just wrestling and then divide it in the subsections of wrestling. You need to be proficient enough defensively to beat any easy attack that would beat an untrained individual. What I mean by this is like, if you're just a wrestler and you step into jujitsu, you're going to leave your neck out and you're going to get choked, right? You're going to get guillotines on double. You're going to post your arm too hard and you're going to get arm barred. Well, once you learn the easy ways you lose, which is probably like 80% of most of it, now they can't beat you. They can't beat you. Now we got a chance to win. So for all these individuals, I would say you need a baseline proficiency for self-defense reasons, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, and a dynamic striking of some sort. Seemingly Muay Thai would be the best because you're using 8 points versus 2 in boxing, 4 in kickboxing. But I would say probably kickboxing would suffice as well, or maybe like a very good karate that would emphasize all the hit points. And then if we know our base level proficiencies of defense, 80 to 90% of what's going to beat me easily, now I'm not taking heavy damage. And I think this is kind of, if I would study George St. Pierre, this is where I think he comes from.
Sure.
Now I'm not going to lose. If I don't lose, I set myself up to win. I set myself up to win. If it's a fight on the street, I can run away. If it's a match or something, now I can, advance position and then go take his back, take their throat, arm, punch him in the face, pin him, what have you.
Now let's say you've got an older adult who's not so fit, wants to get into this kind of stuff. Any suggestions for that individual? Let's say they're in their 40s.
So this is definitely, it would take a different turn, right? Because now we're looking at it as the risk goes up, right? I think that's the main difference is, I have kids and a job that relies on me, my body doing things. So if I, tear a rotator cuff muscle at wrestling practice, I don't get a bonus and kids don't get a nice Christmas, so now, so that's a different beast. So then we need to be able to train technique in a way to develop it where it's good. And then we need to be able to apply it in live situations and mitigate risk. So I don't think I would change everything as a whole, but I think I would pay attention to whom I'm going with.
Yeah.
There's certain individuals, and everyone's different. No one's doing it on purpose. But there's certain individuals that you're going to get injured against a higher percentage, and there's certain individuals you're not. Usually, the better ones are the ones you're not going to get hurt against.
Right. They know when to stop.
And they know how to move through situations properly, and they understand the mechanics of those. So doing something where you're able to feel these real world scenarios be able to increase proficiency of technique and ability, but then not have this high risk of, oh my gosh, this 20-year-old just ripped my elbow off, right?
Right.
So, I would think this individual, 40-some-year-old, 50, 60, you would avoid going with the people that are actively competing, right? Because they're there
Right.
for a different reason. They
Right.
need to go compete, they need to go win, they need to go take throats, take arms. You would want to find, I would say small group or almost one-on-one would be the best scenario, because you're also running into a time issue where in an open class, the teacher's teaching to the 50-60% of the room, the common denominator. But in a one-on-one or in a one-on-three small group, you would then kind of find, hey, I need help with this, this, and this. And I kind of know this, but I don't really know this. Let's work through these situations. Then if your coach is pretty good, and I think you could do it for all disciplines. I think it could be any of them, because you could do mitt work, right? You could do very light touch sparring. You could do rolling in jiu-jitsu or wrestling, where we really take a lot of the risk out of it. And then you would also want to think about, recovery time is probably a little bit tougher, and you would not probably insanely, but more so. And maybe not even that workout being hard to recover from, but you have other things in your life to worry about. So maybe
Right.
it's a once or twice a week practice versus a 6 days, a week as a 20-year-old.
Right.
I think that's the way I would look at it. Try to reduce the risk by getting more one-on-one coaching. Whomever it may be is probably okay. Someone well-versed in most things would be good. And with that, you're also going to increase your gains, right? Because the one-on-one coaching, you're going to get better more quickly, and you don't have the time availability. I think that's how I go about it. I would seek out very high-level individuals to learn from, to reduce risk and increase ability more quickly.
Excellent, because you're addressing this big question. How do you choose an academy or a dojo? Now, I remember in jiu-jitsu, I learned a lot from private lessons. I couldn't afford them necessarily as many as I would want. I think you're pointing to the quality rather than quantity.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've got a class where it's a bunch of young, strong, careless kids,
Whippersnappers.
as an open, maybe that's not the academy or the class for you. So obviously a professional like you might help customize a plan for somebody who's a little older and more fragile. Makes a lot of sense, because I have time. I see you at the gym frequently. I'm there once, maybe twice a week. That's what I have time for.
Yeah.
Because when I lift,
And that's awesome.
If I have to operate on Monday, I can't lift on Sunday.
You can't be sore.
I can't be sore. I can't be sore. So Friday, Saturday is my lifting day, and that, given my schedule, once a week is really my heavy lifting day. Now, do you know anything about people with disabilities getting into some kind of martial art, and maybe, and then by extension, some type of fitness program? Do you have any experience with that, or advice you could give?
I think every disability would have its own unique approach, right?
Yeah.
I think that's
Sure.
that's how. I would
That's an
approach.
awfully big.
That's a big.
It's not one
it's a big,
category.
As far as we'll start in one area. As far as say autistic, Asperger's, stuff like that.
Good point.
I think absolutely wrestling, jiu-jitsu, weightlifting seems to be the coolest, best thing possible. It's socializing, it's normalizing, it's integration, it's putting your mind that may work a little different to a task that it could do very well with. I work with a handful of kids on the spectrum, and from little to adult, you know what I mean? And man, some of them are the best wrestlers ever. It's kind of crazy, and I'm like, and some of them you also wouldn't know, you know what I mean? And some you would know, you know.
An experience. I'm gonna call you master coach. You could come up with an individual program for somebody.
I think so.
Based on your experience with them, spend some time with them, and find a path for them, maybe.
I certainly think so.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
And more by opportunity than me reaching out. More like, oh, this is an amazing young man to work with. Let's see what's going on, you know. And then, it's very cool. And then, on the flip side, you kind of hear parents or other people say things, and you're just like, well, okay, I understand how you think. You know what I mean? That's not true for this individual, And we just keep keep bolstering and positive reinforcement, right? And I found too, like in that spectrum, ADHD is kind of there too, not quite the same, but ish, neurodivergent. They're usually extremely hard on themselves. So, a coach or a parent that's just like, Timmy, why are you doing this? Da, 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 da. It's like more just finding what they do well and going, oh my gosh, Timmy, I'm really happy you did that. That was so great. And they'll gravitate towards the praise, right? Like the rest of it is them just trying to figure out how to communicate and interact, and they're excited, is from what I can tell. It's very cool. It's a very unique thing that I didn't know that I would have opportunities with either.
Well, I'm glad with podcasts and social media that people may be able to find these resources a little easier now than just word of mouth.
Yes, agreed.
I tell you, I'm 61 years old. This shoulder, I had to get it put back together, rotator cuff from many hundreds or thousands of Americanas and kimonos I went through. I used to dread the jiu-jitsu class where they'd say, all right, we're going to do Americanas. We're going to do 50 Americanas. And you have to tap every time it hurts. But by the end of the night, it's over here by the time you tap.
Man, it hurts already. We don't have to keep doing this. I look forward to that. Yeah, you know how to do this.
Personally, I supplement mainly with weights. I get a lot of pleasure with weights. My aerobic capacity isn't what it used to be. And when people tell me if you lift weights hard, there's a lot of aerobic capacity that comes from that too.
Agreed.
Now, I see you doing a lot of body weight stuff and cable type of stuff when you're at the gym. Now, you may be lifting heavy weights when I'm not looking, but I see you doing a lot of more functional kind of exercises. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think it's a mix of everything. Originally, that the mix of most things. I do lift heavy too. Like I love deadlifting, bench, power clean, squat, overhead press, heavy. I really like heavy lat rows. I think the mix of everything originally came from more of how do I become a really good wrestler? Well, and then you look at, okay, well, what is the sport? Well, I need to be good with my body because it's my body versus another human's body, right? But then I need to somehow progress over that because I got to move not just me, but him, So then there's obviously a need for strength of heavy lifts and such. And I'm lucky enough, too, to where when I was young, 11 through 15, I was able to train at the Olympic Training Center for Olympic weightlifting at a satellite regional training center in Springfield, Missouri. So I was learning clean and jerk and snatch right next to Pan Am's champion. Oh, this person's going to the Olympics next year. And oh, these coaches have already been to the Olympics. And it's pretty cool. So I had that exposure pretty young. My dad, Colonel Ryan Loethen, he's big into powerlifting. He's almost like a silverback gorilla. I think he benches like 500 pounds.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think he's in the fours now, but I think, probably 5 at a time. And
how old is he now?
He's 50 right now. Yeah, so he's 50. Exceedingly strong human. So I think, growing up, seeing him in the weight room lift heavy weights, I want to lift heavy weights. And then we're not built quite the same. I don't bench quite what he does, but, liking that stuff. But then I kind of came to a point where diminishing returns of the heavy lifts, at least for my sport.
Sure.
And it's a weight class sport.
Right.
So in a weight class sport, hypertrophy, right? You get too big, well, I got to go up a weight class.
Right.
Or I got to cut all this back off. So what's the point in getting so big? So then it's like a function of how do you get the fastest, the strongest, the most flexible, endurance, stamina, dexterity, mental acuity, technique, movement patterns, explosion to be the best of your weight class. So then probably what you see a lot of the stuff in that front area, maybe only a fifth is like heavyweights that I do. And then it's, probably two fifths body weight stuff. Where are we at? Like a fifth of either cable or band work where it's a constant tension or an increase in tension because, if like someone's got you in Americana, right, that's a constant tension and it's changing. So being able to work within irregular movements, I think seems to be very beneficial. I do a lot of stuff with the French contrast theory, which is a lot for sprinters and stuff like that, which is interesting. quick synopsis is weighted movement, body weight movement, regressed body weight movement, accessory movement. And I'll play within that realm. And then I'll add to that like an extended range of motion theory where I'll do my regressed movement, like say like if I'm doing like chest day, I'll do like a very light banded, very deep pec crossover, right? So I'm getting the furthest points of the muscles working, right? And then I'll go with that, say a very heavy bench press, and then I'll go an explosive push-up. And
on the same day,
I'll go that in a monster set. I'll go bop, bop, bop. And then probably after that, an isometric. I think with that specific, I would do like an isometric chest thing, just personally where I'm at right now. So I think doing that type of acyclic training, like non-cyclical work, I think as an athletic coach for almost any sport, I see the most gains with my athletes.
Yeah, shocking the muscle.
Is it shocking the muscle, or is it working it in a way that it's most opportune or primed to perform the best? That's almost what I see. Like
hitting it from every angle.
Yeah.
Like it. I like it.
If you just bench, you're missing certain things. If I just do, my pec flies, I'm missing certain things. If I just do push-ups, I'm missing certain things. But if I think about a wrestling match, well, my arm's extended and this guy's pulling on it. So there's my extended, and I got to fight, but it's probably not full. It's probably this give and take. And then quick motion, attack, and I'm in. Well, now I'm in, but now it's, hold, heavy. And then it's like release, quick move, and then slow down, control, hold, then go. So I do what I can to mimic as closely to what a wrestling match would be. And then I later found out that it had names like French contrast theory or like acyclic training principles and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I reverse engineered this.
You intuitively knew this.
Yeah.
Oh, this is fascinating. I love it. Another thing I wanted to talk about was motivation.
Okay.
In life, it seems to me, having been around the sun a few times, that if you can just get motivated to do something, it's 99% of the battle. Like if I can just get to the gym, or get to my workout room at home, which I don't use as much as I would like, I'm all right. But getting, you get home from work, you're tired.
Yep.
Maybe you had a bad day. For whatever reason, you're not in the mood. And thank goodness I haven't had to deal with depression.
Yeah.
We all have friends and we know people who deal with depression.
Myself.
Yourself.
Myself.
There you go. An organic.
Especially seasonal.
All these things. Do you have any hints, any suggestions for not just getting off the couch, but actually getting into something? Where you can do it not just once. Like on New Year's Eve, everyone's going to eat, for New Year's, in January, the first couple weeks of January, the gym is packed because everybody's got their New Year's resolution, right?
Yeah.
And then by February, March, it's empty again.
Yeah.
What have your tricks been in lifetime? Now that you share with me, you've had some issues with this. How do you stay motivated, and how might a regular person find motivation to start doing these healthful fitness building things that we've been talking about?
Oof, that's so many. So that's a great question.
It's a tough one, Ty. I didn't say it would be easy.
No, that's amazing. That's an amazing question. Okay. So motivation also comes from momentum. So the first thing you said was, how do I get myself to do one thing? I think that's the key, at least for myself and for anecdotally the people I train. What's the simplest first step to take to go towards your goal, right? And maybe you don't even know a goal or have a goal, but I bet you should be active, or we kind of all know at least some of the things we should do, right? So I certainly struggle with wanting to go work out and everything else, and I train twice a day, most 5 to 6 days a week, and realistically 3 to 4 times a day, depending on what else is going on, just because I do one-on-one trainings and everything else. I'll sneak in my own training with that. lately for me, others inspire me quite a bit. Other people that are seemingly in a similar situation or have had a similar background or what have you, seeing them do something makes me think, oh wow, maybe I could do something like that. Maybe it's not that, but it's something like that. Social media, Instagram. I'll go use the bathroom like in the morning, right? And if I don't want to go work out, because I usually do an AM training, try to get out the door first and kind of beat the negative thoughts early. Um, I'll watch like Joey Diaz just like yelling at me, basically, like, "Come on, get off your ass," da, 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 da. Or
Goggins or something.
yeah, and just and
yeah.
you know, and maybe it's not. Maybe the ones that yell at you aren't for you. Maybe it's, hey, you're doing great. You're an amazing person. You're like, whatever it is. Those little Instagram reels populate your life with things that keep you going the right direction. This studio's gorgeous. You have all your nice signs, the nice brickwork, and everything. The atmosphere makes a difference. If the atmosphere around you is gonna be full of distractions and things pulling you down, that's gonna be tougher to battle. Set your shoes right next to your bed. Have your pre-workout or your coffee, whatever, set up next to you. Set yourself up for success for every little piece. If man, when I get up, I lay in bed and don't move. You got to figure out something to force yourself to go take the first step. So, I have cats. This is interesting. I think I literally just thought about this right now. I have cats, and I have to feed my cats every morning. And if I don't, they yell and scream and make noise, and they're great, but they will sure let me know they need to be fed. I have to get out of bed no matter what. When I'm out of bed, so even if like seasonal depression or whatever is bothering me because it's dark out, like almost always in Missouri once it hits December, I'll have to get out of bed and feed my cats. Well, I'm out of bed. Well, there are my shoes. I always have my coffee on a timer in the morning, so I'm like, oh, well, I already got coffee made. I don't have to do that. All I really have to do is get in the car and go. Well, that's not that hard. I can get in the car and go, and then just one little thing.
You're saying healthy routines.
Healthy routines, build your atmosphere to be beneficial for you, right? Like whatever that is, like not watching something in the morning that's going to stick you on the couch, right? Watch something like, man, I talk about Instagram reels all the time lately. Put stuff in front of your face. If you know you're going to get on social media, well, make it something good to look at, not something comparative or something that's going to drag you down.
And I'm going to insert something here because we just had a podcast with a psychologist.
Okay.
It was about relationships.
Okay.
And if you're with a downer person, somebody that sucks the life out of your life,
that makes it hard.
Makes it hard. Get rid of them.
Yeah.
Get rid of them. Life's too short for this. So surrounding yourself with good people, I would throw in there. It's crucial.
Yep. 100%.
Something you hear. It seems really, really, really stupid. Making your bed, and dressing nice, putting on a tie. Like kids, you see kids in elementary school. Maybe they come from disadvantaged backgrounds. Giving them a jacket and a tie and teaching them how to tie.
Yeah.
Tie a tie.
Yeah.
Tie. And setting up for that success.
I agree.
So this sneaks into your life. I like what you're saying about Instagram and stuff. I'm also a trumpet player. And it's hard, and you got to play an hour a day, dude.
Otherwise, you're going to lose it, probably.
You're going to lose it. So I find time to listen to great trumpet players. It excites the hell out of me. I say, I want to sound like this guy. And you'd be amazed at all the educational tutorials and lessons that are out there. And I can find 20 minutes here and there if I'm motivated.
Yeah.
But it goes in cycles.
Of course.
Any other tricks on motivation? Would you like keeping mirrors around or not? This one's controversial.
I do, but I'm a little vain and like to look at myself. I could see a negative with mirrors, maybe if you have certainly a negative self-image of yourself, and that's something that you're going to fixate on and then create this negative feedback loop, right? For me, it's finding ways to prevent a negative feedback loop, because I know when I'm down, if I think I'm at least semi-intelligent, I can really sell myself into everything is horrible, and I can go, oh, and I'm big on thinking in steps of like, oh, this affects this, and therefore this, and therefore this, because I don't think that any, like, even taking a sip of this coffee isn't just taking a sip of this coffee. Now I have energy, so now I'm going to talk to you different if I didn't take the sip, right? So like every decision makes such a big difference, and I'm good at selling myself into very negative thoughts, like, oh, well, you're already 20 minutes late. Why would you go now? You know what I mean? You can't do your warm up properly. You can, and then I get stuck in that loop. So finding ways to prevent it is great. In wrestling, kids will ask, or adults will ask, hey, how do I get out of this tough spot? You know, when they're about to pin me or whatever, and I go, you don't let it happen. That's
right.
Like,
right.
And that's maybe a snide way to approach it, but it's true. Truthfully, like, I'll extrapolate back to wrestling.
Like, why did I get mugged in this dark alley? Well, maybe if you didn't go in the dark alley.
If we can prevent the thing, let's not encounter it. The go back to MMA stuff, blocking 80% of the things that are going to beat you easily. I think that's in life. Block 80%, and I say 80 because 80 seems to be a simple spot to get to. It seems tough to get to like 100. Like, that's then the amount of effort and time that goes into that, and is going to take too much of our brain. But 80% of most things seem relatively simple. And I think the 80-20, or I've also heard 85-15 rule. It's like 50. If you front load 15 to 20% of your work, the rest of it almost takes care of itself, and then you end up being in a good spot. I think that with mental health the same way. If I can, and which I think is really motivation to work out and do anything else.
All this
right?
is mental health.
Set yourself up to prevent the bad things from happening. If you know, hey, when I wake up and I watch a cartoon in the morning versus the news, this is me.
Right.
Then if I watch the news, I feel prepared for the day, plugged into the community, ready to go. If I watch something that's like funny comedy, then I'll probably watch something else that's funny comedy. You know what I mean? And then it's almost like I follow on the momentum instead of my trajectory that could have been somewhere else.
And I'm going to finish up on a thought, because this can get dangerous. You're talking about avoiding bad things, and I want to finish the thought on the mirror.
Yeah.
People with body dysmorphic image, no matter how skinny they are, they think they're fat. If one is obese, one beats oneself up. Then by avoiding the mirrors, you can avoid these bad situations too. So I know that mirrors can be a double-edged sword, and depending on where you're at in life, it can be very harmful. So I just want to make sure people realize that I'm aware of this, and that mirrors may be a very bad idea for some people.
I totally agree with you. I think each person is going to have different things that are going to trigger them to feel different feelings. And yeah, I know multiple individuals that have body dysmorphia. Several people I've trained that, man, this one guy he lost over 70 pounds working with me, and his words would be like, I don't even know if I look any different. And I'm like, dude, you went from 250 to 180, and the weights are moving more. You're not just lost the weight, you've gained muscle. And it takes him seeing another picture of himself and a picture now to really understand it. It's really tough. So yeah, I would agree with you. In that situation, I would avoid mirrors, right? I would avoid the things that are gonna set you up for failure, and figure out ways to set yourself up for success. For me, for the gym, and especially cold Missouri, and I do definitely deal with seasonal depression and maybe some other stuff during the year too. The sauna is the best. I get to the gym, I know for a fact, even if I don't want to do anything else, I'm going to get there and I'm going to get in the sauna and I'm going to stretch a little bit the first 15, 20 minutes. At the minimum, I'm not cold, and it was cold outside, right? And I stretched my body, and I'm sure I'm sweating a little bit. Almost every time, even if I went in on like an active recovery day, I'm like, well, I'm going to go lift some weights now. Now I feel good because now the body's heated. I created more momentum, and it's almost, I think it's almost like a cheat code if you can go sit in the sauna and
Sure.
stretch, because now
Sure.
it does it for you. You know, you took a little caffeine or what have you to kind of amp your energy, and now the body's hot. You didn't really have to go do the work to get warm. So now you feel good. You know, you're moving in, energy's going up, and then we go do some stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I guess this is a good time to mention that not everybody can afford a gym. Not
Truth.
everybody can get to a gym.
Truth.
I find I do my best thinking in the shower in the morning. It probably runs up my water bill a little bit, but I'll get in the shower and I shave in the shower and I start thinking. And the greatest thoughts or the plans or whatnot, even the plan for this studio, I probably thought a lot of it in the shower, and that gets you going, warms up your muscles.
Yeah.
Something you can do without a gym. I was very impressed by a clip I saw, and there's a book. Maybe not written by a prisoner. I think it was by a prisoner who got out and showed all these incredible exercises you can do with just a floor, 4 by 6 foot floor.
Yep.
And all the body weight exercises you can do. If you know the little tricks and whatnot, you can do amazing things with your body weight without a gym, right?
Push-ups, pull-ups, pistol squats. That's all you need. And if you can't do a pistol squat, you do a 2-foot squat.
Pistol squat. That's the one leg thing.
That's the one leg squat.
I see you
that's
doing
the one
on
leg
social
squat.
media
That's the one
somewhere.
leg squat.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it. Like you said earlier, you see me do calisthenic stuff, body weight stuff mostly. Hey man, the only thing I think you have from the day you're born to the day you die is your body and yourself. Everything else can come and go. All other people can come and go. So in my thought process, I want to figure this thing out. And that's where I come to, if you can do some push-ups, if you can't do a pull-up, there's so many variations you can do that are regressed, right? You don't have to do a straight pull-up,
Right.
Same thing with like a pistol
You
squat.
can just hang.
You can just
hang if you're strong enough to hang.
Oh yeah. Any of that stuff, any and all that stuff. And like you said, a hot shower. Hot shower's good. I got a question for you.
Sure.
Why does everyone have the best thinking in the shower? Because me too. My best, most epiphany ideas, like, I connected all the dots all at once. Boom, just happened right now.
I don't know why, but I can tell you from personal experience, I have been in float tanks.
Yeah.
Which is this magnesium salt. It's essentially Epsom salts. They're so dense, and we can't get in your eyes. You got to realize you lie down, you can't get in your eyes, but it supports you. You only sink about halfway in.
Yeah.
It's body temperature. It's like just a couple degrees lower than 98, right?
Okay.
96 degrees or whatever. It's silent. And I remember thinking of, I could have ruled the world if I had been able to remember and write down all the stuff I thought of in that float tank.
Yes.
So what's an invention? I wish maybe somebody's come up with this. You need a voice-activated microphone in these things so you can start dictating your ideas as they come. Because I couldn't get out and write them down fast enough. But if I had a stream of consciousness, and that reminds me, maybe I'm motivated now to go to an isolation tank with some kind of recording device and think these things through. I can't tell you why, but I can tell you there's very exciting brain research right now on where does consciousness come from and how can we think as brilliantly as we do versus computer chips, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it turns out there might be something called quantum entanglement. Maybe there are quantum states. Birds apparently can use this to navigate. It's a whole nother level of information transfer and association. And maybe it helps the brain do these amazingly higher level things that we don't even know how to study for yet. We don't even have to. How do you test that this is happening? Well, people are starting to dip their toes in this water. Maybe the heat helps quantum entanglement. So there's a far out thought.
Yeah.
But it is not a ridiculous thought at all. It's a very legitimate hypothesis. There's good. The physics is sound. We just need to find out if it happens.
Interesting. So is that like, because I don't know enough about it, is that almost like an antenna? Because I think of it almost like sometimes we're an antenna that can kind of reach out.
A connection to the universe in a more profound, deeper way.
Perfect, exactly.
Faster, more complicated, more information rich, something like that.
Yeah. connect into
Yeah.
the ether of all other
Yes,
all other beings.
There may be the ether may not be a crazy concept either.
I don't think it is.
Yeah, connectedness. Gets into Native Americans too. But I mean, but that everything is alive in its own way. That there's
I
not
believe
dead
so.
and alive. You know,
I believe so.
maybe everything's
Well,
alive.
this is all just electrons moving, right?
and it's mainly empty space too.
Exactly, but somehow it's supporting us. Yeah, very wild,
This
very
is
wild.
Fantastic. Now, something you may not know about me, I used to be obese, and I have, for the most part, been able to turn it around by learning about nutrition and learning that most of what we were taught about nutrition, especially when I was younger and in medical school, was completely wrong.
Yeah. Food pyramid.
Oh, it is ridiculous. Like, fat is good for you. Cholesterol is probably neutral.
Yeah.
Yeah, with all the global warming fears and whatnot, people are all down on meat, but I'm of the strong opinion that meat is the absolute best protein you can have.
I'm with you. You.
So realizing that my thoughts might be a little out of the old mainstream, but I'm hoping that I'm bringing the mainstream along, and that me and other people in the know are more science-based now and whatnot. So what are your thoughts on nutrition?
So, it's a very, very, very good
We'll
open
end with a
question.
small topic, Tom.
Yeah.
A small topic.
So, like you said, how meat you think is the best protein. It seemingly is the most complete protein that humans are built to have, right? I think we are physical animals in a physical universe, and life eats life on Earth.
Yeah, it's not nice. It's not. It's cruel.
We can't, as much as we want to, maybe not do that, and I understand that. I have pets.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm totally sympathetic to the ethics of it. I'm very sympathetic.
It is very simple. You see a bald eagle go snatch something up. They don't worry about it. They gotta eat. You see my little cute cats, Pongo, Nora, Toshi. Man, they'll go eat a mouse and just like, and yeah. But then otherwise, they're cuddly and purr and everything else. Yeah. So it seems like that dichotomy is just what this is. I think high protein, high vegetable, high fruit, low processed grains. If certainly need carbohydrates, right? And based.
Well, I would say if you're lean and fit like you, they have to have a huge important role.
Yes, I was going to say the bio.
I'll stipulate that.
Yes, the bioenergetics of what you're doing, right? The energy that your biology needs must match what your activities are. So, wrestling is a very, you're using a lot of your ATP system. Then you're using your lactic systems, but you're not using as much as your long-term aerobic systems, right? So you kind of have to have a lot of sugar. And you'll see a lot of wrestlers, MMA fighters that do ingest a lot of sugar, but there's no way around it, because without that energy, well, your performance is going to drop and it's not going to work. So it's you have to eat to what you're doing. I would say American diet, average diet's pretty poor. If you go to other countries where maybe they're not even as technologically advanced, but they have the means to produce their own food, seemingly don't have the health issues we have, right? They don't have the diabetes, the heart disease, and all this stuff that we have. There's probably being a more physical lifestyle too makes a difference. But good lean meats, good vegetables and fruits where they're not just 100%, processed and fertilized. Avoid stuff that's probably prepackaged at most often. And good water, coffee, and some juices.
I'm glad you threw the coffee.
Yeah. Oh, you gotta have energy. Whenever I write nutrition plans, right, and a lot of times I base them for athletes that are prepping for competition more than anything else. I put in energy as a thing. Like in the morning, have a banana, water, say a little bit of protein, and then energy of choice. So coffee is pre-workout, if it's a low cal, whatever. And
sure.
Yeah, because hey, you kind of need to get up and go sometimes. And there's profound studies in caffeine, how it helps a whole host of performance indicators.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
caffeine is one of the great joys in my life.
Every morning, coffee. Otherwise, I have to. I don't know how else to get by.
Yeah, and I'm sure as you've been able to socialize with wrestlers from around the world, they're eating ethnic foods that their grandmothers made, that their great grandmothers made, that has been selected over the eons to be good for them. You know.
In Constanta, Romania, the fast food, the fried food I had was like a squid leg fried lightly. And I was like, well, this is just like really good whole calamari. And that was like that was everything. That was
so even their fast food was good food.
Was good food. Yeah. And it's like, oh, this is how everyone else eats. No wonder there's not issues, right? It's certainly they stick more to their cultural ethnic foods. And maybe America being so young, we don't have as much of that. Our cultural foods are cowboy foods, I guess. Hamburgers, hot dogs. Which, hey, my grandpa raises Angus beef. I'm all about beef. No diss on that. Yeah, of course. But when it's beef from, say, a fast food joint versus beef that your grandma cooked, that's a different thing. That's a different thing entirely.
And there's certainly an argument to be made for grass-fed, pastured beef rather than CAFO.
I think
animals.
So. Yeah.
And maybe there's a healthy balance between these two, where we don't have to get rid of meat, but maybe have some thought of the ecology of where it comes from, and maybe that's better meat too.
Yeah.
Maybe there's better energy if nothing else.
And I don't know. This is interesting. So, Hindu religion is big on this. And I'm Catholic, but I definitely learn from, I think, everyone.
Sure.
Actually really, really like the Bhagavad Gita, and there's a lot of stuff that plays through my head in there, which is interesting. But with them, the preparer imbues energy into the food, right? So, like, when mom says, hey, it's extra special because the secret ingredient's love, there's like a real truth to that. And I'm growingly believing this since I've heard it, right? And I gravitate towards that stuff anyways, but the more and more I think about it, the more and more it feels true. If you kill an animal and they were able to feel all this fear, it affects the meat.
Sure.
Right, for sure. And we know that for a fact.
In kosher.
Yeah,
the knife better be perfectly sharp.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and we know that does actually affect it, and it makes sense because you got cortisol, homocysteines, everything go up, right?
Sure.
It's going to affect what happens. So then, why would the energy of the human preparing it not matter? Do you want, an unhappy individual working a fast food job they dislike, dishing you a burger, or even if it's the same burger, but someone lovingly prepared it for you, the energy, at least in my opinion, and I think several others, the energy you receive is so much greater, and you're keeping on these positive vibrations and going in the right direction. And one of my friends from Romania, who I knew before going over there, Flavius Power, he's a personal trainer. His words are, like energies attract, right? So if you're ingesting good energy, I think you're putting more good energy out as well to then attract more good energy in. Kind of like the negative feedback loop I was talking about earlier. It's a positive feedback loop, but through action and in food and what you eat and then put out afterwards.
Well, that's fantastic. So, Ty, I want to thank you for your positive energy. What a pleasure it is to meet you and to grow a friendship with you, and to know that you're a resource for the community here for training, for fitness, for our kids. And I'm just going to call you a force for good.
Hey, thank you, Gil.
What a pleasure meeting you, Ty. And thank you for sharing your time with us today.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Last little things. Okay. You can follow me on Instagram, is where I put most of my stuff out, at the Coach Ty. Look out for martial art or wrestling clinics and seminars within the mid-Missouri area. Also, my uncle Jeremy, who co-wrote and co-produced the movie Fantasy Football, is streaming now on Paramount Plus, so that's pretty cool too. Also, Downside Up music on Spotify, and Nick Danger music on Spotify. I think that's everything.
Good for you. Good plugs.
Yeah, got to plug everybody.
Good for you. Share the love.
Yes. Thank you, Gil.
Thanks again, Ty.
Have a great one.